Good morning, homies. It's time for HitEmUp to take on TopRamen. It's been a long time since I've casted a game featuring HitEmUp. Let's see how his Zerg versus Terran is, because we have TopRamen in the bottom left as our jet black Terran. No, dim gray. I forgot that was a color. Dim gray Terran is the ID Flash, and using the ID Bing Bong. I like that ID. It is in the top right, our eggshell blue Zerg HitEmUp. And alright, so we've got custom IDs for everybody. Again, not the real Flash, but I will look forward to when I do get to say the real Flash. Although I do wonder, as we get further and further away from StarCraft 1, in the context of, we're adding our fourth race, the Ascent this year, specifically looking to get them operational and in your guys' hands no later than the month of April. And we're talking about, I sometimes wax philosophical in a sense of like, hey man, check out the context of us having even more races. Will Flash ever play Cosmonarchy? Comment below if you think Flash will ever play Cosmonarchy, because we might just have so many races and so many units that he's like, no, I am not strong enough. I'm sure he could be. I'm sure he could be an excellent gamer. Let's be real. So, one thing to note about this matchup is that ZVT has been in a state of flux where, for a while, Terran was very, very favored due to early aggression. Now, Zerg can make real Rokor's broodlings out of their larvae. HitEmUp is looking for, and generally HitEmUp's philosophy, so far as I know, and of course he's free to correct me in the comment section if I get this wrong, is that he wants to rely on his base mechanical skill. So he wants to simplify his battle plans and build orders and broad strategies. And, he'll end up leaning on what to other people might feel like abusive strategies, going super greedy, but in a way that you can't punish, that kind of thing. Those are the kinds of things that HitEmUp likes to do, and he's already leveraging that with his Larvosk opener here, with his Hydrith coming as the second structure. He's extending the Kagra all the way to the ramp, and I believe he will be going for a little bit of a one-base play. He's fought off the Mason Scout, and the first Vulture is already on the way from the Terran opponent. So we'll see if we even need to see... Oh, that's actually going to be a Circuith. I thought that would have been a Larvosk, but instead he's going to make that a Circuith. And it will finish before the Vulture can get there, so... Definitely good insulation. You can try to fly past that, but there's already a Hydralisk in production. So with only 2 more Circuith shots or 4 Hydra shots, there's really no chance that this one gets too much done. That being said, one worker has gone down. The mine stunning the egg. Really, really nice tactic there to prevent that Hydralisk from hatching for an extra 3 seconds. And that does net an extra frag. So, the greedier style, not going for any Rokors. That's definitely worked out for him. I like the attempted body block there, but he's only going to need 2 more hits to bring that Vulture down, and it goes away. So, HitEmUp is going to be stabilizing off of that. Nice pressure from the TopRamen player, the Terran player, seeing that he wants to see what he can do to sort of contain his opponent now, because it's no longer a possibility that he can get in and do some eco damage, but he did do some, and that is almost compulsory in a way. At this level of play, it does feel like you absolutely need to defeat your opponent in that way. I'm also now looking at this minimap and how it's almost impossible to see that color on the minimap. If they're moving, it's easier, but otherwise, no, that's an eye strain. Okay, so this is a color I forgot was in the game, and we are going to need to update that on the minimap the way that we did for black and jet black. So, that's another nice thing about Cosmonarchy, getting so many games and so many players. I get to see what people are doing and how I need to adjust things. So this Droleth is going to go ahead and get stunned. This is an opportunity for TopRamen, but he's not currently paying attention. He's looking at his base. Definitely need an opportunity for him to dive onto that worker. Instead, there's going to be a mass of Hydras. Well, there's another opportunity. He could go in. It's only going to be a couple shots. In fact, he does end up thinking of it, especially as another mine hits. So that'll be a dead worker. Slowing the expansion is definitely an important victory there. He's even going to dive back in and try to get some damage. I don't think that's worthwhile. You got one Vulture that's one Hydra hit away from death. Definitely an interesting option here. Okay, Hatrosk now coming down for the expansion. Remember, TopRamen's had his expansion up for a while. His 3 Fulcrums are producing non-stop walkers, transitioning into something that can maybe scrap with the Hydralisks. We've got some Iziracors coming out as well, or just one. This could still be pretty deadly if the Cyclops are able to avoid being picked apart. The Goliath will take a while to take damage. So this is an opportunity for that splash damage to really come into its own. But does he want to wait for another round of military units? He's got 3 more Cyclops coming. In that time, we're going to get 5 more Hydras. That could definitely swing things in favor of our Zerg player. We got pretty good saturation, all things considered. Natural building up here for TopRamen. And the Izira core is going to be brought down without any issues whatsoever. Oh, unfortunately for Ramen, though, he does walk through his own explosions. Very big opportunity here for the Hydras to turn around and fight. Do an about face. There's only 5 Cyclops remaining. Where's that focus fire? The Vultures come in just with the intent of doing what they do best, which is delaying a push out, a move out. And I think maybe Ramen thought he'd be able to break that Hacharosk, but not in the current state of mech, not with that amount of units. So definitely needed to pick a more military-focused target or just fall back. That being said, with HitEmUp clearing it, he can now go heavy into Droleth production. He's got 4 Larvosks and the Hatch, so he's up to 6 larva production every 14 seconds. And we're going up to a 5th Fulcrum. So with the Star Pad in conjunction, we are going to see drops, but look at this. Already double circuit in the natural, or the main base rather, and I'm sure there will be some anti-drop defense in the natural once HitEmUp wants to move out with this Hydra throng. And I feel like this is a good opportunity to mention that the drops are something that Ramen knows. We're now seeing these two players kind of play the matchup, play the player, more than they're necessarily playing the map or the matchup, because the Trojan is a good choice, right? You're not going to hear me say otherwise. The problem is that when you're up against Double Circuit, and they're not even in the middle of the mineral harvesting operation, you're going to have to really focus your fire on the Droleths, and if they get pulled, your Cyclops are not long for this world. Admittedly, there's no Spraith to pressure the Trojan itself, so maybe that will be a factor as well. This one lobotomy mine from earlier in the game, providing a minuscule amount of vision for TopRamen, who is capping his ridges both at the same time. I think we're going to see a tier 2 pivot off of this, but his third base is also nearly complete. Looks like we're going to have Blackjack and 2 Cyclops exiting. And, oh yeah, okay, he's going to go after the Larvosks. I don't hate this. This is going to cause a scramble for the Hydras. 1 Larvosk will be taken out, and it looks to me like the Trojan will stay alive. So, not a terrible target. I mean, that's 125 gas, 50 minerals down the drain. But at this point, probably is going to need to see if he can contain the Zerg. Hey, look at that. He actually could have been wailing on this Hacharosk the whole time, and now the Trojan is basically out. So, you know, 1 dead Hydra. Okay, that's one thing, but not really that much else that he can do. Now, he is going to go ahead and get a little bit of... Ooh, nice. 3 worker kills there. Unfortunately, the Hydras are on the Trojan. They will not escape, and so those 2 Cyclops are not going to be able to pay for themselves. Yeah, a little bit of eco damage, but I feel like it's just a hair off what Ramen would really want. He has set up his own third base, but he's very weak to a counter push at this point. Phalanx has got to come out and see what they can do. We got stockades being added, presumably for a little bit of support there on the healing side. I'm sure we'll see Vestry add-ons. I was looking to try to follow these Hydras. This is where the rubber meets the road in this particular map, I feel. Trying to play around this terrain near the third base. Nice Phalanxes combining with that damage, that stun from the lobotomy mine. But they are still going to be committed upon. Yeah, a couple more splatterings and it would have been over. Matador's coming out as well. Just a hair out of place, actually. And they're even going to try to draw them back in. Blackjack's doing their best in that front. But we got a rally of Droleths moving into that third base. Definitely going to see a nice saturation as anti-drop defenses get assembled. Matador's being picked off here for now. Hydra's going to struggle a little bit against the Phalanxes, especially as they deploy. They are going to need to be forced back. All right, well, overall, I'm going to say that we do need to see a little bit more standing army here from Ramen. He lost a lot from doing his drops, and I don't think that he netted it back entirely, but he has been enforcing a sort of a doctrine from HitEmUp where it forces him to go for that anti-drop defense, and he's been a little bit lax with it, but that's okay because, you know, he's already stuffed the first few. After foiling them, he is going to go ahead and take a 4th base. He's doing so faster than TopRamen. Honestly, I looked at Flash, auto-corrected it to HitEmUp because he's our Flash right now, and then I was about to say HitEmUp, but I just talked about HitEmUp. And Tier 2 is now coming faster for the Zerg than it is for the Terran. This is usually a sign of the times for the Zerg player, but it is an opportunity for if, you know, Ramen can somehow push forward and clear out what he's seeing. Look at that, a 6th base also being set up, but that will be caught by a single Blackjack scout. Yeah, I think this is an opportunity for Ramen to be able to push forward. But right now, he's looking to harass. He's looking to manage the economy. And he doesn't know Tier 2 is on the way. But when Tier 2 is dropped, that is a big swing. That is a point where you can't really harass the Zerg anymore and get meaningful stuff. Because by the time your harassment actually finds some fruition, the Zerg is going to be already banking enough resources to get their Tier 2 tech. You know, you're not really going to see the result of that harassment until much later. The Matadors are busy focusing down Hydras right now instead of that Zoryus in the middle of everything. And now it looks like we have those deployments trying to buy a little bit more time with the extra armor. The Hydras are still chewing through them. The Phalanxes are going to splatter those, but resetting the army right now favors the Zerg player, even though we are getting way more value from the Phalanxes than you might initially expect. And we are going to see a little bit of a fallback here as the Phalanx has been deployed. And it's unfortunately for Ramen in range of that Circuith. He's going to have to go ahead and drop it over here. And hopefully target some workers. There you go. He's going to get a little bit of a volley there. He could also target the workers down here. We'll see if that's what he ends up doing. Kills just a Kagrin outright. He's mostly just being annoying right now. Unfortunately, that other drop did not go his way. And he did not have the hands to pick up that Phalanx in the middle of macroing back at home. His fourth base is finished, but he's not actually doing anything with it, and only now is the Tier 2 coming. The Tier 2's coming as the Spire is put down. I mean, that is a certain swing, I think, because once we're seeing the Mutas swarms come out, I mean, you can fight that with Madrigals, but he has none currently, and he has no inkling that Tier 2 is on the way. His Trojans did not get deep enough to scout the opponent. He's going to see if he can hold back the horde of Hydras. The Anciel revealing them a little bit. Could have even been sniped there, but HitEmUp was busy macroing himself. Okay, the Alcag Eteth on the way for our Zerg player. Might be thinking about a Vigrilisks, could even be thinking about Almax if he wants to take to the skies, force out like Goliath, Madrigal production, which would slow the Phalanx count quite a bit. And the Phalanxes are absolutely impactful here. They are basically required to deal with that many Hydras. Mech army moving out a little bit closer, but it might end up being descended upon as a group of Zethrakors are just splattered in Okay, well, that was a lot of blood, but I still think the follow-up here has some legs. That being said, we've got 8 pairs of Mutas being made, 7 more Hydras coming. He's going to go ahead and deploy the Matadors on the front line. It's not a bad idea because they will help clear out the armor on those Zoryus. But where's the sustained damage? We don't have any more Blackjacks. It's all relying on those very slow Phalanxes to make things happen. And a bunch of Clerics fall, some of the Shamans fall. It looks like it's just Phalanx plus whatever else. And that is going to be vulnerable to Zethrakors, which are now being the unit du jour for HitEmUp. He has pivoted into a lot of pairs of them, just spending down his larva, getting rid of that, and just now going to go ahead and try to take over the map. Living up to the swarming nature of the race, we've got more than a dozen Mutas heading down to the natural, and they are going to heckle it. There's only now are we seeing Watchdogs be put together, but it's going to take a little bit more time than that for them to get anywhere, and the Zethrakors tearing into that third base, forcing a worker transfer and probably destroying critical infrastructure. He hasn't found that fourth base just yet, but it's not that far away. One Watchdog is all that finishes. The Anciel almost getting sniped immediately. Muta control. What the hell are we seeing? The magic boxing kicking in? I'm surprised. Sentinels being put up over here at the fourth base. Nobody has returned to business down at the third. The sieve has been destroyed. What do we got for tech? We don't actually have actuation of it yet. The starports are finished, but he's not making anything with them. Not in this very moment. And meanwhile, back in the Zerg base, we've got a horde of just a veritable onslaught of a rally point there. Looking very crazy. The Mutas guarding over here, flying over to sweep down and defeat the fourth base, it looks like. I wonder if he knows that Sentinels were being made. He's going to move in the 21 Mutas there. I think at this point you do need the Madrigals, but unfortunately for Ramen, he is not in the right spot. The Mutas are here, and they are absolutely going to wreak havoc at this fourth base. It is pretty much over for that particular establishment, and this is a lot of critical damage that I'm not really sure Ramen can come back from. He's lost a lot of workers in the last 2 minutes of play, and he hasn't really been able to move out elsewhere. So his Madrigals are going to help to deal with those Mutalisks, but we are getting a 7th base and an 8th base operational for our Zerg player, double expanding, taking over all of the bases on his side of the map. Thankfully for him, the Mutas are going to be able to excar from that a little ambush. There's no AoE over here, by the way. versus air. So the Madrigals are not with this army, and it's a total descending of the Zerg force. Will Ramen be able to hold it? It doesn't look like it. He had good placement for his Matadors, but look, the Pertathalor is sniping them from a range, and the Hydra's cleaning house. There's not really that much military left, unfortunately, for TopRamen. He has to concede the match after all that. Yeah, showing a little bit of Zerg how it can be done. Just the way that you think. Like, Terran mech can be very, very potent. But I think that going for the drops, going for the harassment after the condition for success had already been achieved, like the first step there for HitEmUp that Ramen was maybe trying to slow was the ascent to tier 2. And unfortunately for Ramen, he wasn't able to slow that enough, and then still went for the harassment when the window for that being a useful tactic was kind of already gone. So we'll see if maybe what he ends up doing is Starpad into Anseal first, or, obviously that does slow the cadence of the Trojan a lot, but maybe getting the Starpad earlier to scout easier, or doing a more committed Watchdog scout earlier as your Starpad comes up so you know whether to go, Anseal for more scouting, or Trojan for dropping because you actually have a window for it, that kind of thing. I don't know. There's got to be some kind of follow-up scout so that, like, the early drops, which did get some damage, don't necessarily get followed up. You don't throw good money after bad kind of thing. But that's just my post-game analysis. Let me know in the comments what you think about Zerg versus Terran. HitEmUp, is he back? Are we going to see more HitEmUp casts soon? Well, I certainly hope so. GG's.